Welcome to the Mount Pleasant Podcast, featuring discussions and interviews about the people, places, and events that make Mount Pleasant such a special place.
This is the Mount Pleasant Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Cleary, and all thanks to the great people of Mount Pleasant Magazine, I get the honor, the privilege of introducing you to Mount Pleasant, the people who make it such a special place to do business, to work, and even to live. We're introducing you to Mount Pleasant's best on the Mount Pleasant Podcast. You live in Mount Pleasant, you live in the Lowcountry. Obviously, you know that the military is a huge part of our community. So many veterans, so many active duty personnel live here in the Lowcountry, and we, of course, are happy and proud to have them. You may not be aware, though, the fact that April is Month of the Military Child. We want to educate you on that and also about an organization that is making a huge difference for students who are military members, whose family are in the military. I'm Brian Cleary, and today on Mount Pleasant Podcast, where the pages of Mount Pleasant Magazine come alive, we're joined by two folks who will join us from the Military Child Education Coalition. Sarah Schackelton is with us. She's the Charleston Community Coordinator with the organization. Sarah, let me start with you. People may hear Military Child Education Coalition and not understand or know what that is. So how is it that you can describe that to us?
Right. It is a mouthful. MCEC, or the Military Child Education Coalition, is a nonprofit that works nationally. We've been around for 25 years, for about 2 years, though, in the Lowcountry with boots on the ground. We serve all military-connected children that are active duty, Guard Reserve, veteran, and we address some educational and social and emotional challenges that come along with the military lifestyle.
So what do you see as the mission, or what is the vision of the coalition in a long-term sense?
Our mission is to ensure that all military-connected children are work, school, and life ready. We are there to help military children thrive, despite the challenges that may come with being the military lifestyle.
And that's Karli Sabecky. Karli, your official title is Implementation Coordinator with the organization. So what does that mean in terms of your role with the coalition?
So I work day to day with Sarah and all of the community coordinators that we have. We not only are in South Carolina, we have community coordinators in Alabama and Texas as well. And we're trying to grow the program to have more boots on the ground and really spread all of the word of how we can help military children around the United States. And so I work on like the back side of the house.
So Sarah, being a child of someone in the military, a lot of times what we hear about that is, oh, it's tough. Kids got to move all the time, and the negative things. Are there positives for kids who are children of military?
Yeah, there are. The military-connected children get to meet friends all over the world, so they have these connections that are established. There's opportunities for them to travel and visit all these new locations, either stateside or around the world. They're typically resilient, very flexible and adaptable because they have to be, and they've learned how to develop these skills. And also they have diverse learning opportunities that civilian counterparts don't usually get the chance to experience.
April is the month of the military child, so we're talking about a couple of things that impact us here in the Lowcountry, because we've got Joint Base Charleston. We have a lot of members of the military active duty here whose students are in schools, whether they're in Mount Pleasant or across the Lowcountry. And today on Mount Pleasant Podcast, where the pages of Mount Pleasant Magazine come alive, we're talking with members of the Military Child Education Coalition. I'm Brian Cleary, and we're joined today by the Charleston Community Coordinator with that organization, Sarah Schackelton. Also, we're joined by Karli Sabecky. Karli, what was your background that got you to the point where you're at now here as part of the coalition?
I'm a veteran myself, and my spouse is still active duty, stationed at Joint Base Charleston, and we have 4 military-connected children. So I found this job a couple years back after moving to Joint Base Charleston, and it seemed like it would be an excellent opportunity to serve all other children that I've seen in my home, and being able to help other children. That's a really big passion.
Well, Karli, thank you for your service, your family, your husband's service. So you have direct knowledge of all of this. Talk to me about some of the challenges that your children have faced as you've bounced around our country.
I think the biggest one is having to say goodbye. We have yet to find a system that really works for having to prepare your child that, this is going to be another move. We have to start over. They miss their favorite teachers. They're starting to feel comfortable. Also, we have a unique situation where I have two stepdaughters and their mom is also active duty and we are not stationed together. So they have two new homes they have to get used to. It's double the moves, being apart. But it also comes with its benefits of having best friends in both locations. But they constantly feel like that new kid, and finding a support system to be there at each new location can be challenging.
Well, I love the fact it's local. I live in Mount Pleasant. I love the illustrations. I love the stories. The fact that this is all about my neighbors, and I can recognize people when I flip through the pages, and the businesses that we work with as a bank as well. It definitely doesn't hurt. It's a very chic-looking magazine. Oftentimes, when you get something that you don't have to pay for, it's not like this. You have to put a lot of work into this, and it shows.
You're listening to the Mount Pleasant podcast.
So, Sarah, talk about some of the ways the Military Child Education Coalition, what is it that you're doing in schools here in the Lowcountry to help these students acculate, transition, whatever the word is you want to use, and become very good students?
Right. So the focus is to help to ease that transition process for all military-connected children, but also all new students. So Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester County are already designated Purple Star schools. That means that they have signaled that they're ready to welcome these new families into their communities. And they do this by having a school or district webpage for military families. And this webpage connects them with the community and school resources. It also ensures that they're providing professional development for the staff on the military family lifestyle. There is a district and a school military student point of contact for any military related issues. And then they advocate for MCEC, which is the Military Interstate Compact Commission.
So, Sarah, when you talk about schools, Charleston, Dorchester, Berkeley County, so let's take Mount Pleasant, for example. Are all the schools in Mount Pleasant then a part of the program?
Yes, every single school in Charleston County is a Purple Star school.
So, Karli, where you had just mentioned part of the challenges, and in reading some of the material that I've been exposed to and doing some research on the Military Child Education Coalition, the first 10 days seem to be a big thing for a student. Can you explain what that means and why that is?
My oldest, she's 11, so she entered 6th grade this year. So not only was it leaving elementary school to go to a new style of living, she also had just moved down here to Mount Pleasant, no friends in the area. So when we let her know that she was going to be going to an orientation, she was extremely nervous. She's like, what if I don't have any friends? What if nobody likes me? And it's a very small school that she goes to. So she was worried that everybody already had friend groups moving into middle school. So it was trying to emotionally prepare her on top of academically, because sometimes that has proven to be a challenge. She has been to 4 different schools from kindergarten to now 6th grade. So there's always that worry that she might be academically a little behind as well, which can create added stress on top of the social emotional challenges that come with that move.
And Sarah, can you talk to me about, because one of the programs that seems to be in place from the Military Child Education Coalition is the student transition groups. What are they about?
Yeah, a student transition group, MCEC calls it S2S, but there are also other titles, the Youth Sponsorship Program or Anchors for Life. Those programs are all peer-to-peer student-led programs that bring military and civilian children together to welcome new students. It helps create a positive environment for those incoming students. It teaches them about the school culture, maybe gives them a tour of the school, introduces them to teachers, all in the name of easing that transition process for those highly mobile, those military connected students.
Oftentimes when you have a student showing these new students the ropes, they feel more comfortable, open to asking questions. And if there are other new students in that program, they'll oftentimes become friends. And that creates a really strong bond when you've got 2 students going through very similar transitions together.
Well, Karli, let me follow up on that, because we're talking about military children here, and they're adapting to a new situation. Take it away from someone, you're military, I'm not. I've never had that experience myself, children, anything like that. So what is it that I could do? What is it you would encourage children that aren't military students? How can they deal with these new kids coming in? And are there things that I could be doing better to help them with their transition?
Promoting this program, it benefits all students. So not only would a student-to-student program benefit military-connected kids, but all highly mobile children. And there are always people coming and going. I know Charleston is a very transient community, and it's not just the military children, but also we can't forget that although civilian students aren't the ones moving, they could be really close to those military children that are leaving, and that leaves them just as impacted. They can be just as heartbroken.
They're still saying goodbye.
Yes, and ensuring that they have the same tools. And if they have a really strong student transition program, they're kind of all there for each other, military or not.
April is the month of the military child, and today here on the Mount Pleasant podcast, we're talking about with a couple of women who have experienced this personally with their families, and we are introducing you to the Military Child Education Coalition. I'm Brian Cleary, joined today by Sarah Schackelton and also by Karli Sabecky. Now, Sarah, in terms of looking across Mount Pleasant, the Low Country, this organization that you have is a nonprofit. What is it that, say, a business could do to help the coalition?
There are actually a couple different ways. So one way we educate professionals is by hosting professional summits. And there's usually a professional side and a student side happening together. This is a time that organizations like MCEC or the Military Interstate Compact, MCEC, will come in and give our teachers and educators the information that they need in order to support these children. We also host a global training summit every year in Washington, D.C., and we bring in our student groups, the student transition groups we just spoke about, and then also just professionals themselves to have some very individualized support and learning opportunities.
And it really provokes motivation of why we do what we do and the effectiveness of having these programs. And the 360 Summit, which is what Sarah was describing, is a good way to get multiple schools together in the community, not only for a mass training opportunity, but the students start connecting and getting ideas off of each other and networking. And it's a really heartwarming experience to watch them train, because we'll have them all start sitting together. But part of the training is you have them split up and intermingle with other students from other schools, and watching them network and grow just in that one day of training is really eye-opening, and it's an incredible experience.
So there's a donation piece or a financial piece to that, hosting a summit, but also there's a lot of times just the location of where to host it. So MCEC has all these resources that we're able to provide and give, but we work remotely. So a lot of times that actual space is a big factor in where we can host these professional developments.
Yeah, and trainings for all the students and staff. It's generally a 2-day event where the students are the main focus on day one, and then we'll have a community event for all the families that evening, and then the following day we'll focus on training educators from around the community. And it doesn't just have to be in the district that's hosting. When we host, we trained up Dorchester too, and we invited Charleston County, Berkeley County, I think Beaufort was also invited. Whoever could travel was welcome to attend this training.
As an individual person, if I want to help the Military Child Education Coalition, me personally, I don't have military involvement. So one way is a donation. Is there other ways, volunteer opportunities, anything like that?
Yeah, MCEC is always hosting different events where you could volunteer. But I like to say, as a military spouse myself and mother to 3 military-connected children, be that neighbor. So, for example, I say be that neighbor that invites somebody over for dessert on Christmas Eve. I live and die by that every single year because I don't have family locally, you know? There's just little social and emotional things that you can do to kind of ease that.
Yeah, and I've done an exuberant amount of moves, and for the first time, our neighborhood here in Charleston has been the most welcoming that we've ever realized. And just, it's amazing when somebody offers, like if we had a baby and we didn't have family that could come help us, and they put on a meal train in the neighborhood, knowing that we didn't have family to come support us, or just offering to come hang out, see how we're doing, and just ask.
So I have to veer off subject here for just one second. It's not really off subject, but you two are professionals when it comes to moving. You have to be. You've done it so many times. Everybody hates to move. So let me tap into your craniums a second. Sarah, Karli, whoever wants to reply. Give me some moving tips. What am I doing wrong? What do I need to have a more
I have learned firsthand, if you are moving with children, pack up their room last.
Okay.
It helps them kind of mentally prepare for that. They always have their space until the last second. And then when you get to your new place, set up the room first. They need their space. It doesn't get easier. I can say that. We've moved 6 times and it does not get easier. The goodbyes are always harder. Packing there's always more stuff.
Yeah, I'm on the materialistic side is purge and never accumulate too much. It just takes away from the moving experience when you're focused on trying to pack up their things. If anybody out there has a good suggestion on how to pack up Lego sets, still trying to learn how to master that. We've asked other military families and we're all still trying to figure out how to move with a cherished Lego set.
Purge. My wife loves that word. The last time we moved, she finally got me to get rid of some stuff. It was so important to me, but I haven't missed it over the last 10 years. So I guess you're right. Today, here on the Mount Pleasant Podcast, I'm Brian Cleary, joined by Karli and Sarah. They are with the Military Child Education Coalition. April is the month of the military child. So Sarah, let me talk with you because obviously the military is something you've enjoyed. Your family's been a part of it. How is it that you're able to keep your kids engaged and have them come out of this at the end, that this has been, all this moving around 6 times has been a positive experience?
It is a learning process. So a lot of the work that I put into my children is work that I've done on the back side of things, learning how to deal with the social and emotional stressors of a move, and kind of building their toolbox up to be able to be more resilient, be more adaptable.
I think a good rule of thumb with the multiple moves is you focus on what stays the same. So there's a lot of changes associated with the move, but when you sit down and let them know, like, we can still have your favorite breakfast no matter where we're at. We can still sit down and have family dinner no matter where we're at, and building upon, because children thrive on that routine. And we really try to do our best of, because a lot of times when we move, it's not you move out of your house, you go right to your next station. Sometimes you're put in a temporary living facility or like living on the base, and it could be up for a month or 2 because you're just told when the military can help pack you up. You don't get any say in that. They tell you when they're coming. So you have to do your best of making the most out of where you live, and kind of your excitement, they feed off of that. So we try to make it as stable as possible, but also like, we're in this together.
Right. And a big thing that we say at MCEC is do routine things routinely. So when we're moving, we're keeping the bedtime routines the same, whether we're in a hotel, whether we're in a temporary living facility. We are going to bed at 8:00. We do pizza night every Friday, and it doesn't matter where in the world we are, we're doing pizza night on Friday.
So in your experience, you both have talked about being fairly welcomed here in the Charleston Low Country area. So take that a little bit further. What about the schools, teachers, administrations? How do they respond in terms of military children? I
have a kindergartner, so it's not only her first year in the school, but it's my first year, addressing these changes that are coming. We're going to be moving here in a month. So I've worked with a child incoming to a school and then out processing from a school. So some things that they have that are phenomenal are teachers that are just informed on what the military lifestyle is. And sometimes it's us giving them the background education for that, or them knowing it firsthand, or them taking it into their own hands. Also, they have a military family life counselor in some of the Low Country schools, which is a counselor specifically designated for military connected families. So there are a plethora of knowledge when it comes to the social and emotional aspect of being a military connected child. I've relied on my child's MFLAC a ton when it comes to this next move.
I would say we're trying to get the word out more to different schools. I live in an area that's not as highly military populated, and generally when I've approached the schools to ask what military resource they have, it might not be as abundant as they get a little older, but they have always been so open to understanding and wanting to know how they can help. So as long as we're proactive on our side, I've learned that the schools are very open to helping our children in any way that they can once we approach them and kind of give them the 411. Or my little one's in daycare, and I've learned to be proactive of, if dad's out away on a mission, to let them know, like, if she seems a little off, this could be why, or anything of that nature, rather than they'll say, hey, she didn't have her listening ears on today. Is everything okay? And then it's like, oh, right. Dad's been gone for a week. Things are a little different at the home.
I think in our role as community coordinator and the implementation team, but also as military connected parents. And then if you look big picture as parents, we are our child's best advocate. So if a teacher or an administrator doesn't know kind of the ins and outs of the military lifestyle or what's happening in your family, then they can't do anything to help them. So a lot of times it's just, identifying what's happening at home and applying that to the classroom.
Yeah, that can, and then with older kids, that can translate a lot into behaviors that are not always favorable in the classroom. But when a teacher is aware of why they could be acting that way, it changes the way that they approach the situation.
So many variables in this that I would never have thought of until I talk with you ladies, and then find out ages and moving and this and that and different schools. And so if people are looking for information about the Military Child Education Coalition, what's the best way they can get that?
militarychild.org. You'll find all the programs and initiatives that the Military Child Education Coalition is behind.
And April being the month of the military child, what is it that you hope that we can get across, that we can get out, that we can do to help so that at the end of that month, you're feeling successful?
I am really hoping that we can host either a local summit or get a couple student teams to the Global Training Summit in Washington, D.C.
And that summit is going to be this summer?
Yes. Yep. Every summer it is.
The last week of July.
Yep.
And what would you think, what would be the first step that we could take in terms of getting a local summit, a local conference together?
If we find somebody that is willing to host over 100 students and be okay with their presence and give us 2 days, or even if it's 2 locations, but generally to host that many students, we need a pretty big area just to ensure. And with there being such a great commute all over, we're trying to find that central spot where everybody feels they are welcome to attend.
And Sarah, you mentioned, I just caught real quickly, something about a move in a month?
Yes. Yeah.
Moving again.
We are moving, yes, to Travis Air Force Base in Northern California, so a coast-to-coast trip. We've spent our whole career in the South, so this will be a very interesting experience for us.
Karli, I guess your next move isn't on the calendar right now?
We will find out next March if we are moving or if we get to retire in Charleston. We are right on he's got 3.5 years until retirement, but we are up for orders in about a year. So we get to find out. We've tried feeling out the water for my oldest of how she feels about moving. She's not about it at all. I have an internship coming up in a 1.5 years. So we're just we're taking each day at a time so we don't stress out about this unknown.
Sarah, best of luck to you in your travels on the other side of the nation. I guess the best gift we could give you is maybe over this next 30 days to come up with something solid, positive here in the Low Country for the organization.
Yes, would love that.
So good luck, ladies. Thank you so much. Karli Sabecky is the implementation coordinator, and Sarah Schackelton, I guess you'll continue your work, but on the other side of the nation.
Yes, sir, I will.
It's all part of Month of the Military Child that we're celebrating with the Military Child Education Coalition here today on the Mount Pleasant Podcast. I'm Brian Cleary. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for spending your time with the Mount Pleasant Podcast, your community, your podcast. Listen to past and future episodes at mountpleasantpodcast.com.